simple flow and replay, and so that you'll get some idea about how the tool works. And we'll go through the course content in detail, and then finally we'll discuss any question and answers in detail again. So for the first point, like what is performance testing, I would before I explain that performance testing concept, I would like to explain a particular slide over here, which you know which differentiates functional testing and non-functional testing. So in the overall software testing field, we have two things, like one is functional testing, the other one is non-functional testing. So functional testing, you know some of you might already know, because you might already be working on the functional testing, which is also called as manual testing. It is all about testing the functionality of the application. Okay, so if I give you any application, right, for example, and if I ask you to test the login functionality, so what will you do? So basically you launch the application, and then you enter the username and password, and then you click submit or login, whatever it is. Like that means you're testing the login functionality. When you enter a valid username and password and you click on login button, are you able to log in successfully or not, is what you are verifying there. Okay. Similarly, you also validate with some incorrect user ID and passwords as well, just to check the negative side of the functionality. Now, so functional testing is all about testing the core functionality of the application. Okay. Now, for example, if I take a generic example, we use the lift, right? So let's say we are on the ground floor, and let's say we want to go to third floor or fourth floor. Now you go inside the lift and press 3. That means the lift has to go to third floor. Okay, that means when you press 3, the functionality is that the lift has to go to third floor and stop. So you are verifying whether the lift is actually going to third floor or not when you press 3 button, right? So that means you're concentrating on the functionality of the application that you're using. Here in this case, I took an example of a lift. Okay, but generally when you uh, think from the software point of view, software application point of view, you can take any application. For example, if you take any banking application, you want to transfer money, you want to check the functionality of a transfer money. So what you do, you launch the bank application, you select a beneficiary to whom you want to send money, and then you enter some amount and you click transfer, right? So that's how you test the functionality. Okay. Now in this functional testing, okay, we also use some automation tools, okay, like Selenium, UFT, etc. Okay, so these tools are primarily used to test the functionality of the application. Okay, so but when it comes to non-functional testing here, it is primarily focused on some of the uh, non-functional aspects like performance, security, etc. Okay, so performance testing is also a part of non-functional testing. Okay, so again, let's go back to the lift example. So in the previous example, I said, like, you go inside the lift and then press 3. That means the lift has to go to third floor and stop. Okay, that's the functionality. Now, how much time it is taking to go to third floor? That is the performance. Okay, so when you press 3, how much time it is taking to go to third floor, you can think of it as the performance. Like sometimes it can take 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 15 seconds, right? Whatever the amount of time it is taking, it could be a function, a performance aspect. Okay, now the same lift example, instead of one person pressing 3 button and then going to third floor and then checking like how much time it is taking, what about a lift with full capacity? That means let's say a lift can max occupy 10 persons. So when 10 persons are inside the lift and then you press 3 button, so how much time it is taking to go to third floor? That means when the lift is loaded, okay, That means that when there is a load on the lift and then you press 3 button, then how much time it is taking to go to third floor. Okay, so that is the core performance aspect. Okay, so the term load is very important. Okay, without load, I mean, with single person, it doesn't make sense, like, or with single user. If you think from software application point of view, if only one person is using the application, that doesn't make sense, right? If let's say 100 persons or 200 users or 100 users are accessing the application, then there might be some impact on the performance as well. Okay, so when we are discussing anything about the non-functional testing, especially the performance, uh, it's all about the load. Okay, with how many users we are testing. Okay, that is one of the important factor that we have to consider. Okay, so hope you got a brief understanding or difference between what is functional testing and non-functional testing. Here in this non-functional testing, especially with respect to performance, we have some tools like LoadRunner, JMeter. We have other tools also like NeoLoad, Gatling, etc. But in the market, LoadRunner and JMeter are most widely used tools. Okay, so I'll tell you in some time like which domains in the IT industry use most of LoadRunner tool. No, which domains mostly use JMeter and what could be the reasons and all. We'll discuss in some time. But here I just want you to understand the primary difference between functional testing and non-functional testing. Okay, so I'll just repeat it. Functional testing is all about testing the core functionality. Whether that functionality is working fine or not is important. Okay, that's what we are verifying here. When it comes to non-functional testing, especially with respect to performance, how much time it is taking to execute that functionality is important. Okay, for example, let me open one application. One second, guys. Just be with me for like 1 minute. I'll just take some URL. Uh, okay, so here, okay, so uh, okay, ignore this script, guys. I'm just using it for. We'll come back to this tool in some time. Okay. S- Now you see, this is a sample application. Okay. One second. Where did I give it? One second, guys. Okay, this is a sample application, guys. Okay. Now I just want you to understand the difference of functional and non and performance here once again. So if I want to test the login functionality, okay. So what I can do, I enter some username and then password, and I click on login. So okay, I successfully logged in. So what does that mean? It means the user is able to log in successfully. The functionality is working fine. The login functionality is working fine. When a user enters a valid username and password and click on login button, the user is able to log in successfully. Okay, so this is a functional testing aspect. Now the same thing, if I log out again and now again I enter username and password and I click on login button. Okay, I logged in successfully again. But when it comes to performance testing, Uh, of course, successful login is important, but what is more important from performance tester point of view is how much time it has taken for the user to log in. So when I enter username and password and click on login button, right? How much time it has taken to navigate to this page? That is more important from performance testing point of view. Okay, like it can take 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It's secondary, but how much time it is taking, to know that, the performance tester will be more interested in. Okay, login functionality is important. Without successful login, we will not be able to analyze the performance. But then our primary focus will be on the performance side, because functional testing some other teams will do. Okay, the functional testers or the automation testers, they take care of the functionality. Once the functionality is working, then we will start performance testing, right? So considering that, how much time it has taken for the user to navigate from a login page to home page is very important for us. Okay, so here I'll just try to write a single statement in generic terms. Okay, and not a textbook kind of definition, but a simple definition. So checking the uh, performance of an application by applying some load. Okay, or by applying load also, you can say. So load is important term here. Why? Because if I simply test with one user, okay, if I simply log in with one user, that doesn't make sense, because the application will anyhow perform well. At a time when 100 or 200 users are accessing the application and then performing some actions, let's say some of them are clicking on this flights button, some of them are clicking on this itinerary button, some of them are clicking on home button. Okay, let's say 200 people logged in, 200 people are currently using this application. Some of them are using clicking this link, some of them are clicking this link. Then how the application is performing is very, very important. Okay, just one more example. uh, let's take a bank. What are the common uh, scenarios of a banking application, online banking application? What are the common scenarios? Can I say, like, transfer money is one common scenario which every online banking application has. Let's say next one is, after transfer money, let's say you have a download bank statement. People download bank statements frequently, right? Then let's say you pay credit card bill. Okay, so let's say these are some of the common you know functionalities of any online banking application. Okay, now let's say 200 people are currently accessing the bank application. Now out of these 200, some of them might be transferring money, some of them might be downloading their statements, some of them might be paying credit card bill, right? So when different users perform these different scenarios, okay, different functionalities, okay, simultaneously, like, all 200 users, performing or being active on the bank application, okay, will determine the performance, if it is good or bad, or if the performance is better or if it is very poor. No, we'll be able to know only if there is some load on it. Load means, I can simply say, number of users here. For time being, just understand that it is number of users. Okay, so hope you got the basic understanding of the performance testing definition, and then this keyword called load. Okay, so with this, we just completed this, what is performance testing at a very high level. We didn't discuss about the textbook definition, guys. We'll see that later because it's not that important. Basically, whenever you attend any interview, they'll not ask you any textbook definitions. Everything has to be, can be in more generic way. Okay, so now, having discussed about what is performance testing, there are different tools in the market, like LoadRunner. Okay, we have JMeter, we have NeoLoad, we have Gatling, like we have few others also, but these two are most widely used tools in the market. Okay, so why? Because LoadRunner is there since ages. Okay, so many years the LoadRunner tool is there in the market. Okay, um, now, uh, uh, so it is currently owned by OpenText. Okay, now earlier it was with HP and then Micro Focus and then now OpenText. um, it is a licensed tool. Okay, it's a licensed tool, and when I say licensed, like you will have some advantages over open source tools in terms of getting continuous support, uh, like continuous support, documentation, proper documentation, okay, proper licensing, okay, no issues executing with huge number of users, like thousands and thousands of users, okay. So it is more stable because it's there since so many years. Now then there is another tool which is JMeter, which is open source. Okay, this is open source. Now, uh, like this tool is also famous in the market equally to LoadRunner. Um, now, if you ask me like whether to choose this or choose this, or in fact choose any other tool, it depends on the client that we are working for. It depends on the company that we are working for. I could say that most of the banking and financial institutions, they prefer LoadRunner because banks and financial institutions mostly give preference to their data security. They don't, I mean, they generally feel like license tool, they go with license tool because of data security, and moreover, it has a lot of advantages over other open source tools. Basically, it's a benchmark tool in the market. Uh, okay, the reason saying that it's a benchmark tool in the market is because there is something called protocols. So the number of protocols that this LoadRunner tool supports is way ahead than other tools. So, and then in the open source, this is a good tool to use. Okay, in the open source, this is a good tool to use, and the license one, this is a good tool to use, and it all depends on which one to go with. Okay, now because this is LoadRunner course, I'll be explaining you the LoadRunner architecture now. So if you have any questions with respect to LoadRunner or difference between LoadRunner and JMeter, please make a note of it. We'll discuss at the end. Okay, just keep make a note of it at your end. Uh, Let me open a slide for you, which will explain about LoadRunner architecture. One second. Okay. Uh, Now we will derive this architecture based out of some questions. Okay, I'm not going to explain all the components in one go, but then we'll try to understand each of the component based out of some questions. Let's say there is a bank application. Okay, let's say there is a bank application. uh, Obviously, if I ask you to test this banking application, online banking application, with let's say 500 users, now, that means all 500 users should access this bank application, and they should simultaneously perform some task. Okay, like some of them like transfer money, some of them download statement, etc. Now, if I ask you to test with 500 users, how would you do that? Will you bring 500 people and give them 500 laptops and then make them sit at one place and then ask them to access the banking application and perform some functionalities like transfer money or download statement or paying credit card bill, something like that? No, right? It's not possible. Let's say it's possible. Okay, let's say it's possible with 500 users. You can give them 500 laptops. What if I ask you to test with 5,000 users? Will you be able to bring 5,000 users and make them sit at one place, assign them laptops, and ask them to sign in to the bank application and then perform some actions? No, right? So it's not possible. That's the reason we need a component which will uh, which is responsible for generating or simulating virtual users for us. Okay, so that component is called load generator. Okay, this component is purely responsible for simulating or generating virtual users. Now, what these virtual users do, they also perform the same tasks as a normal human user. Whatever the normal human user do, I mean, same task will be performed by a virtual user. Like they can access the application, they can click a link, they can select a value from a drop down, they can click a button, they can enter some text. All the actions, they can perform on the UI. Okay, so This load generator is also a component which is responsible for simulating virtual users. Okay, this load generator is also a machine, a highly configured machine, I can say, because uh, each load generator machine has to simulate multiple number of users, like 200, 300, 500. Okay, it depends on various factors like how many virtual users each load generator can simulate. It depends on multiple factors, which we'll discuss later. But then for time being, just understand that this tool or this component is purely responsible for simulating virtual users. Okay, now that instead of bringing the real users and assigning them laptops, you can just use this machine, which we call load generator, and simulate virtual users for us to test. Okay, now then let's say we already have the virtual users in place with the help of load generator. Now what else you need to have? So let's say you want to test uh, a particular I mean from the banking application only. Let's say you have to test the performance of a transfer money. Okay? Let's say you have to test performance of this particular scenario, transfer money. Now, if I want to test the performance of transfer money, that means let's say 50 or 100 users are selecting a beneficiary, entering amount, and then clicking transfer button. Like, how much time it is taking for the transaction to complete? Okay, like it should be very fast, right? Real fast, like once for about 1 second, 2 seconds. Generally it happens very fast, the transfer money. But then what are the steps to reproduce the same scenario? First is we generally launch the application, launch banking application, right? Then we log into the application, then we select beneficiary, then we enter the amount probably, and then you click transfer button, and then you log out. These are the possible steps, right? So for these possible steps, let's say 200 users should perform this functionality. Let's say 200 people no, they have to transfer money. But then how can they do it? Okay, we have 200 users ready. Okay, so let's say we have 200 users ready. How? With the help of load generator. With the help of load generator, we have 200 virtual users ready. But then how these 200 users able to execute these steps? So in order to do that, we need to have some script ready, or we need to generate a script, or we need to develop a script. Okay, so that that script can be reused by these 200 users. Okay, anytime. So these 200 users can run this script which will transfer money. Okay, and then when all 200 users are running this script, so we can analyze the performance from the backend. Okay, so now how do we generate the script, or how do we develop the script here? To develop the script, we have a component called ViewGen. So this component is primarily responsible for uh, uh, generating the script, or developing the script, which the which the virtual users can reuse, okay, and run anytime, okay, n number of times. So we have this load generator ready, and then let's say ViewGen also is available to develop the script. Now let's say the script is ready. Now we want to execute. So there should be some platform or component which should be able to, yeah, using which we should be able to at least trigger the execution. So that particular component is called controller or performance center, or in fact, in the recent versions, we can call it as LRE also. Okay. So whatever the script we develop here, we upload it into this component. We upload it into this component, and here we configure the number of users. Let's say I want to run with 50 users. I can add 50 number of users as 50, and then you can trigger the execution. It's just triggering the execution. The actual execution doesn't happen here, but it just triggers the execution. Okay, now let's assume that the execution is also complete. Okay, now after execution, generally what we do, we analyze the results, right? Whether the performance, whether the application performed well, the performance improved or performance degraded. Okay, so we have to analyze, right? At the end of the day, we have to inform the client whether the application did well or not. Okay, so for that we need to do proper analysis. So for proper analysis, we need, if you want to do, the first thing that we can make use of is the analysis component. Okay, so there is a component called analysis, using which we will be able to analyze the performance. Okay, so what is the, I mean, there are some common points that we have to analyze. Okay, so we can discuss those things later. But all in all, at a very high level, these are the different components of LoadRunner architecture. Okay, there is another component which actually acts as a bridge between these two, load generator and then performance center or controller. That component name is called agent process. Okay, that component name is called agent process. I'll show you that later practically. So it has a different purpose. We'll discuss that later. So um, these are four different important components of LoadRunner architecture. One is load generator, which is used to simulate virtual users. Second one is ViewGen, which is used to develop the or generate the scripts based on the functionality that we have to test. Then once the scripts are ready, we have to upload them to controller or performance center and run with n number of users like 50, 100, 200, 300, 1000, 2000. Okay, and then once the execution is complete, you can just analyze the results using analysis component. So all in all, this is the load runner architecture at a very high level. We'll discuss in detail with respect to agent process and what happens when you trigger the execution, what will happen exactly. So all these points we'll discuss in our upcoming sessions. Okay, so uh, with this, any questions as of now? I can just take a 1 minute time to answer your questions. So we will move to this particular point in 1 minute. If you have any questions with respect to load runner architecture or in general performance testing or any other generic question, you can ask, or you can make a note of it. We can discuss in some time as well. Perfect. I'll go through the questions in the chat window as well. So you can just post your questions in the chat window as well, as and when you get time. Okay. So if you see this point, sample, record, and replay. Now, based on the load runner architecture, can anyone tell which component is used to perform this step? If okay, I want to discuss on this particular point like record and replay. So which component is used from this load runner architecture?
ViewGen.
Yes. So it is ViewGen. So ViewGen, the purpose of ViewGen is to generate or record or develop the script. Okay, for different functionalities. Which functionalities? The functionalities will be given by the application team, like developer or business analyst or client. They will tell us like which functionality we have to test. That particular functionality we have to record. Okay, we'll discuss that in detail. So for time being, what I'm gonna do, this sample application we have seen, right? So just for demo purpose, so I'll just record this application. So I'll just launch this application and then I'll log in with valid username and password and then click on sign off. So these three steps I'll record and then we will replay it. So when we replay, we'll come to know like how many how much time it has taken for the application to launch, how much time it has taken for the application to log in, how much time it has taken for the application to log out. So these things will be able to see. Okay, so I'll go to so I'll close this. So if I want to record the flow, the first thing that I have to uh, do is launch this component called ViewGen. Okay, so once you install LoadRunner in your machine, I mean, you might get these icons on the desktop directly, or you can simply search here like Fusion. In the Windows search bar, you can just search for Fusion, you'll get this icon, then click on it. So the Fusion component will launch. Okay, so now this is the screen that we see as soon as you log in. There are different menu options which we'll discuss in detail in our upcoming sessions. For time being, I'll just click on File. I'll click on New Script and Solution. Okay, so I told you, right, there are different protocols. See, these are the different protocols. We may or may not use all of them in real time, but as a performance tester, you should know at least two to three. Okay, so when you attend any interviews, they'll ask you at least two to three protocols. I'll tell you what are those which are important. We'll discuss that in some time. So now I'll just select this web HTTP HTML protocol, this one. So basically, whenever you are testing any UI application uh, which runs on the browser with HTTP or HTTPS, okay, uh, you have to use this protocol, web HTTP HTML. Okay, so select this protocol and then here give the script path, or let me give a different folder. Oh, one second. Sorry. Let me create a new folder. So here I'm going to create a new folder. Okay, so I created a new folder, and then the script name for today I'll just give as demo because this is the first thing that we are recording, right? So the script name I'm just giving it, a generic name for today. Then click on create. No need to enter any solution name or target for now. Just click on create. Okay, so once you create a new script, it will look something like this. So this screen here is a code editor where you can see the script, generated script or the recorded script, which you can enhance it or customize it according to the requirement. And on the left hand side, you have this solution explorer, um, which has different options to work with when developing the script or when replaying the script. We'll discuss the different options of the solution explorer in our upcoming sessions. Okay, now the first thing that I have to do is what I thought is like we want to record these three steps, right? So I wanted to record launch, login, and then logout. So first step is launch, second step is login, third step is logout. Okay, so here if I want to initiate the recording process, I can do it in multiple ways. The shortcut way is to just click this icon for time being. Okay, so when you click on this icon, record icon, it will populate another window. Okay, so when I click on this, so it will pop up a different window like this, where you have to choose. Okay, this option for time being, let it be. I'll explain in the next session, next practical session. For time being, just understand that you have to select some browser, okay, to so that you can launch the application in that browser and then start recording the flow. Okay, I can choose Firefox, Edge, or Chrome. Even if you don't see any of the browsers here, you can add it, no problem. I'll tell you how to do that in our upcoming session. For time being, let's say I'll select Firefox, and here you have to give the application URL. Okay, so you can, I mean, let's say you're working on some project like Amazon.com or something. So you can use that URL. Okay. I'm not saying to record on Amazon.com, just giving an example. Okay. So uh, in fact, we will practice on multiple applications. Even I will give you different URLs for you to practice. No need to worry. So for time being, I'm just entering this URL here, which is a sample application, demo application given by the vendor, my LoadRunner vendor itself. So now when I click on select the browser, give the URL, and then when I click on start recording here, what will happen? when I click on start recording here, this browser will launch with this given URL. Okay, what will happen? The Firefox browser will launch with this given URL. Okay, let's see. So when I click on, and I'm just clicking on start recording here, you'll see the Mozilla Firefox browser getting launched and then the application URL application getting loaded. Uh, it takes time for the first time, probably like 10-15 seconds max. Okay, see here, the Firefox browser launched and then the URL also loaded automatically. Now the application already launched. Okay, the first step is already done. See here, the launch of the application is already done. Application already launched. Now, along with the application, you'll also see a movable window, something like this. There is a movable window over here, which is very useful for generating the script. There is a similar window in JMeter as well. There is a similar movable window in JMeter as well, but this is more powerful than the JMeter, uh, uh, movable window. So here we have so many options over here. Okay, so here if you see, we have uh, stop recording, pause recording, cancel recording. This option we'll see later, like um, into which action we want to record is all, it's all about that. We'll see that later. Then this is like commenting, and then this is separate concept called checkpoints. This is separate concept called rendezvous point. We'll discuss all of these things in our upcoming session, but for time being, let's focus on these two. So this is called insert start transaction. This is called insert end transaction. So that means whatever the step you are about to execute, or whatever the step that you are about to perform, or whatever the step that you are about to execute, for that you have to start a transaction and then go ahead and perform the action directly on the UI. And then once that particular step is completed, you have to click on this end transaction. Okay. Now from these three steps, can anyone tell what is the next step that we are going to perform? What out of these three steps, what is the next step that we are going to perform?
Login.
Login, right? Correct. So launch is already done, right? That's the reason we are about to execute login. So what you have to do here, click on this insert start transaction. Okay, if I do a mouse over, see, if I do a mouse over, it says insert start transaction. So go ahead and click on that and give a name to it. For time being, I'll give login because that's the action that I'm going to perform. And then click OK. When I click OK, automatically the insert end transaction will be enabled. Now, right now it is disabled. Okay, you see it is disabled now. But then when I click OK, it will be enabled. Okay, see here. See, it is enabled. Now, I should not click insert end transaction right away. Rather, I should go ahead and perform the action that I want to. That means I have to enter the username and password and click on login button. Now login step is done. Okay, login step is done. Wait for few seconds. Wait for few seconds and then click on insert end transaction. Okay, now you click on insert end transaction. Now, what about the next step? Login is done. What about the next step? Next step is logout, right? So again, click on insert start transaction, then enter logout, then click OK, right? Now go ahead and perform that action on the UI. Click sign off button on the UI. Okay, wait for few seconds so that the page will load and then click on insert end transaction. Okay, all the three steps have been recorded successfully. Now, in the meantime, you could see that there is some number over here which keeps on increasing as and when you perform some step on the UI, it keeps on increasing. So when the number increases, no need to worry. Actually, it's a good sign. So when this number increases, that means the tool is able to record the application successfully. The tool is able to record the application successfully. Okay. If the number is not increasing, like it's only one, two, three, it's like single or two-digit number. Even you are performing so many steps, this number doesn't increase at all. Then that means there is some issue in terms of recording. Okay, that you have to handle it in a different way. But when the number keeps on increasing, it's actually a good sign. Okay. Now, because all the steps recording is done, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click on stop recording. Okay, when I click on stop recording, now you will see the script getting generated. This is just for demo purpose, guys. I'm just explaining at a very high level so that you'll understand like how this tool works. How you basically record a simple flow and replay it. Okay. Now, by default, actually, we have recorded into this action. So this is where the code will come into picture. All the code will be generated. Okay. Now, mm, how many lines of code is there? Like some 60 or 70 lines of code is present as of now. Okay. Now here, if you see line number 33, what it says? It says LR underscore start underscore transaction. LR underscore start underscore transaction. So this line here is coming because while recording the script, I clicked on insert start transaction and I've given a name for it, right? That's the reason this step has been generated. You got my point? When I was recording the script on there was a mobile window, right? On that, I just clicked on insert start transaction and I've given a name login, right? And then because of that, this piece of code generated. If you see line number 52, it says LR end transaction login. That means login is starting here and it is ending here. Okay. Now this piece of code generated because I clicked on insert end transaction for login. In between, whatever the code you have, it all belongs to login. Okay, so when I entered username and password and I clicked on submit button, right? So this piece of code generated. If you see, this is a username and password that I entered, username and password. Okay, so whatever the code that is present between start transaction of login and between end transaction of login, this entire request belongs to login. Got it? This entire request belongs to login. Uh, then if you see line number 56, you see LR start transaction logout. And then if you see line number 68, LR end transaction logout. LR end transaction logout. So whatever the code that is present between line number 56 and 67. So between this start transaction logout and end transaction logout, this request belongs to logout functionality. That means when I clicked on sign off button, right? So here there is a sign off button, right? When I click on sign off button, this piece of code got generated. You can see the URL name, it says sign off button. Okay, so this is logout, this is login. Can anyone tell what is this request? Can anyone tell what is this request?
Launching URL.
Yeah, correct. So this is about launch. But if you observe carefully, there is no start transaction and no end transaction for launch. Okay, ignore this. Okay, this is not related to, it's a different topic, but focus on this. So if you see for this request, there is no start transaction or end transaction. Why? Because when you click on this record button, and then you clicked on start recording, right? And then the browser launched with this URL. See, even before the mobile window appeared, there was a mobile window, right? Even before that appeared, this browser already launched and this URL already launched. That's the reason we didn't get chance to enter or we didn't get chance to insert a start transaction for launch and end transaction for launch. Got it? No, I will just I can insert manually also. See, I can write on my own LR underscore start underscore transaction, LR underscore start underscore transaction. I can give my name like this on my, see, I can write on my own like this. And after line number 31, I can end it. So I can write LR underscore end underscore transaction. Just for launch, you have to write it manually. You can write it manually like this. Whatever the name you give in the start transaction, same name you have to give in the end transaction also. Okay. And then you have to write LR underscore auto, which I'll explain you later. This is a different keyword. Okay, so in this way, you can add transaction for launch as well. Okay, so this code belongs to launch. This code belongs to login. And then this code belongs to logout. Okay, so it's easy to understand the code and analyze. Okay, so I just have to record the flow properly. That's it. Okay, now can I replay the script? Can I replay the script? Like for example, if I click on replay here, so let's say there is a replay button. See here, there is a replay button. Okay, there is a replay button. If I click on replay, let's say I click on replay, what will happen is this script will get executed. Okay, so let me execute once. I'll click on replay button so that the script will get executed and you'll get to see like the results. See, execution completed. If you see here, launch 0.54 seconds, login 0.4 seconds, logout 0.3 seconds. See, you can clearly analyze like how much time it has taken for the application to launch, how much time it has taken for the application to login, how much time it has taken for the application to log out. Okay, now you can ask me a question. Sir, it has taken 0.5, this has taken 0.4, this has taken 0.3, this has taken 0.5, 0.4, 0.3. But is there anything, any limit, like according to the industry standard or generally what we follow in the performance testing projects, is there any limit that this response time, you know, should be like only 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 4 seconds like that? Yes, according to the industry standard, the response times should be less than 2 seconds. This is the industry standard. That means if you click a link or if you click a button or if you click a link, the user must navigate from one page to another page in less than 2 seconds. That is the industry standard. It could be less than 3 seconds or less than 5 seconds also, depending on the project. If they are okay, that should be fine. But according to the industry standard, it is less than 2 seconds. Okay, so we'll focus more on this. We'll learn more about these response times, SLAs and all those things later. So hope you understood like how to record a simple flow, okay, and replay it. So any questions? So here you see what is performance testing, LoadRunner architecture, sample, record, and replay. These three things we have covered so far. Okay, so if you have any questions, right, you can just make a note of it. Um, I'll just go through the course content and then we can completely focus on Q&A. Okay, just just post the question in the chat window. We'll discuss that in some time. Just few more minutes, we'll complete the course content as well. Okay, so let me open the slide. Okay, so this is the course content, guys. So this
What
LoadRunner
is common
course
between
is
Instagram,
is about like
Netflix?
from basic to advanced course. Okay, so when I say basics, I'm going to cover everything from LoadRunner architecture, introduction to performance testing life cycle. So these four important concepts from interview point of view, and then introduction to LoadRunner, installation, record and replay. Okay, different options over here. And then here you see best scripting practices. Like, when you record the script and when you replay or when you customize, what are the best scripting practices? Okay, and then runtime settings. Okay, so like in the tool you have something called runtime settings. So we will discuss in detail about all these runtime settings. These runtime settings will help you in replaying the script. Okay, and then you have some recording options and then some checkpoints. Checkpoints means assertions. Where guys coming from automation manual, you might have heard about some term called assertion, right? Basically, it's all about verifying proper validation. So here we call it as checkpoints. And then most important point, like some of you guys most frequently you ask like, sir, is coding required? If yes, how much of coding is required? So my answer to that question is yes, coding is required, but then only some basic concepts are enough. We no need to learn, advanced level or intermediate level is also not required. Only basic concepts. These concepts are enough to customize your script. Okay, whatever the script we developed here, basically sometimes you might have to enhance it by writing your own custom logics. Okay, so in that case, these concept will he- these concepts will assist you. Okay, especially people coming from non-IT background, no need to worry, because these are very basic concepts. We will cover like 3 to 4 sessions, like 4 sessions on these C language basic concepts for you guys.